Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor, and we're back with another episode of the Healing Call of Cancer. I tried recording this episode last week and technology baffled me. Something went wrong and it never happens. So I'm back again with the same topic. So let's give it another shot here. So today, I want to talk about one of my heroes who had been diagnosed with cancer when he was only 18. So I want to talk about Terry Fox. Now, before I dive into that portion, there's something I want to state loud and clear here. There are many unsung heroes who have faced a cancer diagnosis in the world. And I consider them all heroes, regardless of the kind of cancer, the duration of the cancer, what happened to them. It takes great courage to face this disease and then do whatever you need to do to get through it. So there are many, many heroes. Look around you. I bet you could name half a dozen or more in your own immediate circle that have somehow had this challenge in front of them. Now, the other thing I want to say is I've noticed that there's this thing about the war on cancer and the fight against cancer and this whole thing as if it's this almighty battle that you could either win or lose. And if you don't live, if you die from cancer, then you lost the battle. And if you live, you won the battle. Well, I don't believe that that's true. I believe that cancer comes into our lives as an opportunity to learn something, and sometimes learn something at a very deep level, and an opportunity for those around us, our loved ones, to learn something as well. So I don't see cancer as, quotes, the enemy. Oh, it's a formidable teacher. There's no doubt about it. And I've said this before. But let's move away from the idea of the battle against, because it's really a battle to live. And so let me just share what I know about Terry Fox to give you his life as an example of that. So Terry Fox was diagnosed with bone cancer when he was only 18, if you remember the story. And it resulted in his leg being amputated above the knee, his right leg. So he was fitted with an artificial limb. Now this, when things had healed enough, and this was in the days, so we're talking the late 70s, early 80s. Well, they didn't have the technology that they have now for artificial limbs. And so what he had was a tough piece of equipment to adjust to. And I understand he went through the usual angst and grief and sadness, and I'm sure anger that we all face when we're faced with that level of adversity. But it didn't get him down. At some point, he wanted to find meaning in his own suffering, and he wanted to find a purpose, a reason for being beyond the cancer. So he really looked at, well, who am I now with one leg? Now, this was a young man who had been extremely athletic all his life. And so he didn't want to lose that. Well, he also noticed when he was going through treatment, there were lots of people around him suffering from cancer as he had, and particularly young children. And his heart just went out to them because he thought they shouldn't have to go through this. So over time, this idea grew in his head. Well, what if I could run across Canada and raise money for cancer research so that these young ones don't have to suffer like I did. And so this germ of an idea just grew and grew and grew. And it was a daunting prospect, a daunting possibility, because here he is with only one really good leg, and then this artificial limb that I'm sure caused a great deal of pain and discomfort just wearing it, never mind walking on it or even running on it. So he trained for 18 months in order to make this feat possible. And when he landed in Newfoundland to start his run, his goal was to raise $1 million for cancer research. In his heart of hearts, he really felt that if every Canadian just contributed $1 at that time, they would raise far more than 1 million. But his initial goal was, I want to raise $1 million for cancer research. So he started his run and averaged about 26 miles a day, if I remember correctly. You can look it up. There's all kinds of information on that. But what I want to emphasize here is, here's one person. And sometimes we ask ourselves, well, what can I do? Can one person make a difference? Well, you never know how far your light will shine. And here's this young man who he wanted to make some difference. And so he started. And of course, initially, nobody knew too much what he was doing, but then momentum built the farther he got, and the farther he got, and the farther he got, to the point where when he reached Toronto and he entered Nathan Phillips Square, it was flooded with people, and the encouragement and the media coverage, I just get goosebumps just thinking about it right now, was astonishing, and it caught fire, and all of a sudden there was this groundswell of love for him and support and encouragement, and the money started flowing. So now, did Terry Fox make it all the way across Canada to his home in Vancouver? No, he didn't. He got as far as Thunder Bay, and then there was something wrong physically. And much to his huge dismay and heartbreak, they told him that the cancer had spread to his lungs and he was going to need to go for more treatment. So he flew home from there. But that didn't stop the donations, the contributions, the media coverage around the enormity of what this young man had accomplished because of one idea that he was determined to make happen. So now, interestingly enough, from a quotes success standpoint, did he raise $1 million? Yes, in fact, he raised 24 million. By the time of his death, when he was only 22, over $24 million in Canada had been raised. Now, of course, we say, well, okay, then what? Well, then what? Two things. Number one, the Marathon of Hope, which was the label that Terry Fox chose for his run, became an annual event. And there have been over 40 of these events every year since that time, and not just in Canada, but worldwide. So can you imagine, since Terry Fox first took the first step, the Marathon of Hope worldwide has raised over $850 million. Well, that light has shone pretty far. Now, I came across, I have a somewhat personal connection to this story, because one particular year when I was at a conference in the States, I listened to a speaker by the name of David McNally. And David had written a book called Even Eagles Need a Push. Because we were conference participants, we each got a copy of this book. And in it, it outlined how David McNally had been so moved by the Terry Fox story that his goal, his dream, was to do a documentary about this young man and his courage and his conviction about how he could help to support research. And he faced many obstacles in doing this documentary, and there were times when he didn't know if he'd be able to achieve his goal or not, but he did. And when I read this story, I'm going, wow, this David was from originally, I think, from England, and then lived in the States. And so here he's writing about one of our Canadian boys, which I was so touched by. Well, I found out that this documentary was actually available on a VHS tape. You know, we're back in the days of old VHS tapes. And I was teaching study skills at the time, and I thought, wow, what a powerful story for my students, for each of us to take a page from this whole focus and look at purpose in life and look at meaning in life. And here's this young man who's done all this. So I purchased the video, and every new class that I had for over 15 years watched this video. And I know it was inspirational for a lot of them. And every time I watched it, it was more inspiring for me and more inspiring for me. Little did I know that I too would face a cancer diagnosis at some point. Now, so back to the point of, do people fail if they die from cancer? Oh, they lost their battle with cancer. No, 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 no. Sure, we battle to live. I mean, the urge within us to keep breathing and staying on planet Earth one more day is really, 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 really strong. And so we fight. But what are we fighting for? If we're fighting to live the best life we can for whatever time we have on planet Earth, because let's face it, none of us knows how much longer any of us has or what we'll die from. We don't know. Something's going to take us home. And so I watched this with my sister, who battled for several years. She wanted to raise up her son and get him through school. And so against all odds, she fought this terminal cancer that was in her, until at some point her body could not support that anymore. So home she went. Well, but mission accomplished, because in her doing that, so I don't consider that she, quotes, lost her battle. She didn't lose her battle. She achieved a great percentage of her goal and was able to provide the kind of life for her son when she was gone that she knew she wasn't going to be able to do any longer. And so when we look at a purpose that's mightier than the circumstances we're in, it makes a huge difference. So please don't commiserate when someone goes home. They take that final journey and they're in heaven or whatever it is that you believe that the destination for them. Don't feel sorry and say, oh, they lost their battle. No, say, wow, they lived a good life. They fought the mighty fight. I think it was George Bernard Shaw said, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. Well, that's often what happens in a situation where people are battling and dealing with a big disease, is their bodies get thoroughly used up. But of course, their spirit lives on, so they don't die. They just transition. They move to a different realm, a realm that we're not as closely connected to as we could be if we chose to be. So celebrate the life that the person lived while they were here. Be grateful for every moment that you had with them, and help them celebrate that. Honor them for the courage that it took them to face this journey in the first place and take whatever steps they took. There's no right or wrong in any of it. The journey is the journey, and their journey is their journey. So when you think of, I think it's September that the Terry Fox run happens again, then if you feel compelled to sign up and raise funds, then have at her. You know, there's that opportunity every year to support. Or you also could contribute, if you have some finances to contribute, you could contribute to someone you know who is facing this disease, because there are all kinds of unseen expenses that aren't covered in healthcare plans and so on. And it's a mighty blow for lots of families in trying to deal with this. So maybe your money is better spent supporting those who really need it, like right now, right on the ground, that are in your neighborhood. So that's another possibility for you. All right, my friends, that's all I wanted to talk about today. That was a big chunk. There are so many heroes that I can think of, as I mentioned at the beginning, and most of them unsung. Well, because you're all magnificent individuals, you're all heroes in your own right. So I celebrate you, I honor you with whatever you're going through, and I look forward to supporting you and inspiring you further, whether you're involved with the Healing Call of Cancer videos, or you check in Tea with Sue every Friday. I just want to honor you for being here, and we'll just carry on, right? We'll look for that mighty purpose that's there for each of us. You know you can do this because you're magnificent enough to do that. Take good care. We'll see you next time.